The cabin? That's all you're worth, Dad muttered, sliding the yellow deed across the table. Mom didn't look up. My brother smirked, his Miami mansion papers still warm from the notary's stamp. I sat there, my hands trembling, but not from the cold. The silence between us was heavier than the snow pressing against the windows. Then, like a blade, another voice cut through. My fiancé's. "You're pathetic," she said, her diamond ring flashing under the dining room light. "You can't even provide for yourself. I'm done." She turned to my brother, and the way she smiled at him twisted something inside me that I'll never untangle. The food was still warm on the table, but no one had eaten. "My name is Clara Hayes. I'm 29. And if you think you know how this ends, stay tuned. Have you ever had family cross your boundaries, as if you didn't even exist? Let me know in the comments." I drove north alone, the ring she left behind burning a hole in my pocket. The further I went, the more the roads narrowed, until only a path of snow led me to the cabin. The place leaned like it was tired of standing. Logs splintered, roof caved in patches. Inside, dust lay like silence on every surface. A cracked window whistled with the wind. And yet, beneath one broken floorboard, my hand brushed something metallic. A small, tarnished box, locked tight, cold against my skin. And in that moment, despair shifted, because sometimes broken places hide the most unbroken truths. The box was heavier than it looked, carved with lines that almost formed a pattern, like waves, like ridges, like something meant to be read if only I knew how. My breath fogged in the dim light as I turned it over in my hands, searching for a seam. No key, no latch, just weight and mystery. The cabin creaked with each gust of wind, as if protesting my presence. My phone buzzed once, my brother's name flashing. I let it die in my hand. Then came another, her. "Don't call me again. I've moved on." Just 5 words, yet they filled the hollow of the room more than the draft ever could. I wanted to scream, but silence felt louder. I set the box on the table, brushing aside decades of dust. A faded photo slid out from between the warped planks. My parents, younger, smiling in front of the cabin with someone I didn't recognize. An older man, stern-eyed, a hand on Dad's shoulder. On the back, in Mom's handwriting, "The first deal." I shivered. Deals? My family never spoke of Alaska as anything more than a burden, a tax drain, a leftover. Yet, here was proof of something else. The floor groaned again, but not from the wind this time. Something deeper. I knelt, tracing the cracks where the box had been hidden. My fingers found a notch, unnatural, carved. I pressed. The cabin shifted. A panel near the hearth slid loose, revealing a hollow space, black as night. Inside, wrapped in oilskin, lay stacks of brittle papers bound with twine. The ledger. And suddenly, the cabin wasn't broken. It was keeping a secret worth more than any mansion in Miami. The ledger smelled of old smoke and damp earth, its pages yellowed but intact. My fingers trembled as I untied the twine. Each page was lined with neat columns of numbers, signatures, and dates, stretching back decades. Some were circled in red ink, others underlined twice. Names jumped out, corporations I'd only ever seen in headlines. Oil, minerals, land rights, and at the very top of the first page, cabin trust agreement. The cabin wasn't just a cabin. It was collateral. The wind howled through the broken window, rattling the box. I stared at the numbers, millions flowing like rivers between faceless entities. Then I saw it, a final entry dated 5 years ago. Resource valuation, $497,600,000. $500 million, hidden under rotting wood, while I was handed scraps of inheritance and shame. My phone buzzed again. A message from my brother. "Don't bother coming back. We're changing the locks in Miami." He attached a photo of him and her, my ex, laughing on a balcony I'd never stepped foot on. The ledger felt heavy in my lap, heavier than any insult. I closed my eyes, hearing the cabin breathe around me, though it sighing like it knew I'd finally seen its truth. You still wear that perfume. Her voice echoed in memory, taunting, out of place, like a decoy thought rising uninvited. I pressed my palm to the page until the ink smudged my skin. For the first time, I didn't feel small, because, while they fought for mansions and jewelry, I was holding the foundation of something untouchable. And the only question now was, who else knew? I spread the papers across the warped table, the oilskin crackling with each movement. Contracts, signatures, surveys. Proof that this land wasn't worthless, it was priceless. Every page whispered that my family had lied for years. My breath slowed. Why would they bury this instead of claiming it? Fear? Greed? Or something darker? The silence cracked when the door groaned open behind me. My heart slammed. I hadn't locked it. Snow gusted in, carrying the shape of a man. Not my brother, not my father. An older local, rugged, face carved by the cold. He carried himself like someone who belonged here more than I ever could. "You found it," he said simply, his voice gravel low. I froze. "You knew." He stepped closer, eyes flicking to the ledger. "Your father swore never to touch it, said the deal was cursed. But you," his gaze fixed on me, steady, "you're different, aren't you?" My pulse raced. I wanted answers, but the weight of his stare made me feel like I was the one trespassing. "Who are you?" I asked, trying to keep my voice from breaking. He didn't answer. Instead, he pulled something from his coat. A silver key, small, tarnished, twinned to the box on my table. He placed it beside the ledger. "Everything you need is here. But once you open that box, you can't close it again." The cabin walls seemed to bend inward, pressing me for a decision. I swallowed, fingers brushing the key. The ledger had already shifted my world, but this was something deeper. And suddenly I wondered if $500 million was a blessing or a curse waiting for me to claim. The key trembled in my hand, its metal biting cold against my skin. The man's eyes didn't leave me, as if testing whether I had the resolve my father never did. I slid the key into the box. A sharp click broke the silence. The lid opened slowly, resisting like it carried the weight of decades. Inside were rolls of parchment, brittle but preserved, stamped with seals I'd only seen in history books. Mining rights, territorial deeds, a map, ink faded but legible, marking veins of untouched resources beneath the Alaskan ground. At the bottom lay a single envelope, newer, cream-colored, with my name scrawled in my father's hand. My chest tightened. I tore it open. His handwriting wavered across the page. "Clara, if you're reading this, it means you've found what I could not bear to face. This cabin is more than land. It is blood. The deal was made before you were born, and keeping it hidden was the only way to protect you from what it brings. But now it's yours. Use it or destroy it. Just don't let them take it." I sat back, dizzy. Protect me? The same father who sneered as he signed away my worth? The man by the door finally spoke again. "They don't know what's under their feet. Yet. But your brother will come sniffing once he realizes you didn't just inherit dust." Lightning surged through me, sharp and clear. For once, my brother's smirk didn't matter. My ex's betrayal didn't sting. Because in my hands lay not just wealth, proof. Proof my family had built their empire on lies. And now the choice of whether to expose it or wield it was mine. I folded the letter slowly, every word of my father's confession pressing heavier than the snow on the roof. The man lingered in the doorway, boots leaving wet marks on the warped floorboards. His presence was steady, like he'd been waiting years for this moment. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "Nothing," he said, eyes fixed on the box. "It was never mine to claim, but others will want it, and they'll come faster than you think." The warning coiled in my chest. I thought of Miami, the mansion, the balcony, the laughter I wasn't part of. My brother, smug and careless. My ex, calling me pathetic while sipping champagne at my expense. They thought I'd vanished into silence. But silence could become a weapon. The ledger, the deeds, the map, this wasn't just wealth. It was leverage. And for the first time in years, I felt something sharper than grief. My phone buzzed again. A new message from my mother. Clara, please don't make this harder. Your brother will handle everything. You're not equipped for responsibility. Responsibility. They used that word like a leash. I stared at her text until the letters blurred, then laughed, hollow and sudden. Not equipped? I was holding evidence that could dismantle everything they built. You'll need a lawyer, the man said quietly as if reading my thoughts. I met his gaze. No, they'll need one. The cabin felt less broken now. It felt like a courtroom in waiting. And for the first time I realized I wasn't the loser they cast me as. I was holding the verdict. The storm outside pressed harder against the cabin walls. But inside I felt an eerie calm. The ledger lay open on the table, numbers glowing under the weak lantern light, like truths that refused to stay buried. I dialed a number I hadn't called in years. Ms. Rowe, the only lawyer who'd ever treated me like more than a shadow. When her voice answered, firm and unshaken, I whispered, I found something worth more than their empire. She didn't ask for proof. She only said, bring it. And Clara, do not tell a soul until you're in my office. The cabin groaned again, and I caught myself glancing at the man by the door. His eyes flickered with something like approval. By morning, I was on a plane with the box wrapped in my coat. My brother had messaged 3 more times overnight, his tone shifting from smug to sharp. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? We need to talk now. I ignored every word. At Ms. Rowe's office, her hands hovered reverently over the documents, as if she knew the gravity before reading a single page. She scanned quickly, her jaw tightening. Clara, this isn't just inheritance. This is controlling interest. These contracts mean you own the land your father claimed was worthless. Legally. Entirely. My pulse pounded. And She looked up, her voice cool as steel. If this goes to court, your family won't just lose credibility. They'll lose everything. I stared at the tarnished key on her desk. For years, I'd been locked out of my own bloodline. But now, I was the one holding the lock. The courtroom was colder than the Alaskan wind, yet I walked in steady. My brother sat at the plaintiff's table, jaw tight, suit sharp, my ex at his side like a prize already won. My parents avoided my eyes, hands clasped, as though prayer could erase signatures inked decades ago. Ms. Rowe rose first. Calm. Surgical. The ledger opened on the stand, its pages displayed like scripture. Contracts. Maps. Deeds. Dates that spoke louder than any witness. This, she said, her voice slicing the hush, proves that the land in Alaska was never a burden, never worthless. It was an asset, hidden, and it belongs to my client, legally, irrevocably. My father shifted, his face crumbling for the first time in my life. My mother's lips parted in a whisper I couldn't hear. When my brother lunged forward, demanding it was fraud, the judge silenced him with a single gavel strike. The evidence is clear. The estate belongs to Clara Hayes. Effective immediately. The words rippled through me, not like triumph, but like release. I didn't look at my ex. Her betrayal no longer defined me. I didn't need revenge carved in fire. My justice was quieter. Outside, reporters swarmed, but I only held up one thing, the silver key. This isn't about money, I told the cameras. It's about truth. And sometimes the smallest, most tarnished key can unlock freedom. That night, back at the cabin, I stood by the cracked window, wind howling like it always had. Only now it didn't sound broken. It sounded like breath. I placed the ledger on the table, lit a single candle, and whispered to myself,